Alright, let's see how much I need to get done here.
Have you ever beaten Zelda 2?
Zelda 2?
Yeah.
The Adventure of Link.
Yeah.
No, I never touched it.
Oh.
How come?
Not even the original Zelda?
It had a bad rep, so I didn't touch it.
I mean,
Yeah,
that's kind of fair. I mean, like, from what yeah.
I've heard I've heard negative things about it, and sometimes, you know, when it comes to that, it kind of just steers me away.
Well, like, the AVGN talked about it in one of his videos, and even though he does point out why people don't like it, because for one thing, it's a 2D, it's a side scroller instead of a top view, and there's also a lot of it also goes very much into super difficulty mode.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, there's a level called Death Mountain that should tell you everything.
Oh.
And it's like the second or third level in the game.
Yeah, no. It'd be like playing like the first few levels of like of the first Mario, and then being thrown into the lost levels.
Oh fuck, man, the lost levels. I actually have a funny history with that one. Not a bitter history, a funny history. All right, fucker, come to life. Well.
Well.
Do something.
There it is!
There.
Nightmare fuel.
There. Now to leave that area.
Everybody traumatized by the fucking piano.
I forgot what I was gonna say. Oh yeah, something I wanted to mention. I feel as like I was thinking about talking about this in a video. But I didn't want it to come off like a jerk. How should I put this? A lot of people, because of, you know, whatever games that I've streamed, and because of the super form on my TF2, some people have this, not assumption, but they have this thought that I'm a huge Zelda fan. And despite the fact that I've streamed a handful of Zelda games, I'm actually not a fan of Zelda. I don't hate Zelda, but games that just take a long time to get through are actually very intimidating, especially RPGs.
I think it's because you dressed as Link for the TF2 stuff.
Yeah, and people just have... Okay, so the funny story behind that, and as you watch it again for Blinded by the Phoenix, you notice that some of the super forms are based on certain, like, all-power effects. Like, with Chrissy's super form, it was supposed to be some kind of, like, all-heal a team or something.
Yeah.
Josh is just, like, big Super Saiyan. So mine, the idea I had was something based on a stun effect. If you remember in Dragon Quest, the episode, as much as I hate the episode, there was a moment where a phoenix was shining bright and blinding the dragons.
Oh, okay.
And thus, you have the big light arrow that blinded everybody. As soon as I mentioned it, Josh was like, "Oh, you mean like Phoenix from X-Men?" No, dude. I don't do Marvel. And people were just like, "Dude, I think that's overpowering." How is it overpowering, though? That doesn't make sense. Like, I don't know. Then they started thinking, like, oh, maybe you could start thinking about some sort of, like, video games since you're into that. I'm like, well, I'm a fan of Metroid, but I can't go as Samus. That would be way too overpowering. So Link was the next idea in mind.
Oh, okay. I can see why people would think you were a Zelda fan.
Yeah. And as I do mention that, this isn't me, like, throwing shade at anybody. What the fuck happened to...
I think we done this. Yeah, no, ya los tapaste? Alright.
Nope.
Sorry about that.
No, it's fine. But I also want to clarify, this isn't me throwing shade at the members or anything like that. It just seemed like a weird communication. But that's how it turned out to be. Although, ironically enough, and this was kind of, like, frustrated on my end, because choosing Link over the Zelda, like, type of super form, somebody in the comments were saying that I was being Mary Sue in that story. I'm like, how was I Mary Sue?
That's not... Everybody uses the term Mary Sue for a lot of things these days.
Yeah, and I fucking hate it. Like, it's just like...
Literacy is dead.
Yeah. It's just like, what, like... Like...
Like, when I think of a...
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, when I think of a Mary Sue, I think of a character that gets everything they want and pretty much is
just
perfect.
God mode, basically. Just a God mode with no
Yeah.
challenge or tension. That's what I see as a Mary Sue. That's what it was
Yeah.
based around. A Mary Sue was the name of a character in some Star Trek fan fiction.
I did not know that. The more you know.
Don't quote me on that, though. There's
Okay.
a whole, like, history as to how that came to be. Like, it kind of happened back in the 70s.
Yeah. I'm not gonna mention who did this review, but it kind of reminds me when people said, "Oh, Sunny Star Scout is a Mary Sue." I'm like, no, she isn't. She literally
she was not. Yeah,
she
go ahead.
literally.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go on.
Go ahead.
Okay. I was just saying, like, she literally actually went through a lot to actually get her powers and such.
The one argument that
And not the-
really pissed me off on a personal note. Sorry, were you saying?
No, go on. I was just gonna repeat myself.
But no, the argument I hated is that Sunny got rewarded Alicorn features by lying and stealing, and I'm just like, if you're talking about the little heist she committed, that heist backfired on her. Pip was the one who had to bring one of the Unity crystals to her. And the other crystal, she won that through a dancing game with Alphabetal.
Yeah, it's kind of similar to how it's kind of like how some people, like, I guess, try to still blame Twilight for a lot of her actions in the MLP movie. Like when she tried to get,
that pearl,
from...
yeah. It's like, well, yeah, it was out of her own desperation because she's running out of options to, save her fucking home.
Yeah, and she even acknowledges that in midway in the movie. She realized he screwed up.
Yeah, characters make mistakes. It's what makes them characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, like there was a lot of bad faith in the Josh review, and I know that I'm throwing this out there. I'm gonna get crap for that, but I was having an argument with Josh when watching the review, and it was a total mess.
Yeah. It tends to happen, friends get into disagreements with a lot of stuff. There's all you can really do is just be civil about it and not be very hyper aggressive. It's kind of similar to how I was with my friend Joe. We both have differing opinions about this one band called Woods of Ypres. I love them to death. I think they're a very tragic band. He absolutely hates them.
Aquamarine, you do have a good point. And the big reason is because I've mentioned it before in a video that, with all the G5 hate, things have just got so out of control that people were just ripping each other apart, and it was just unacceptable.
And there still are, but let's not get into that. But, I think even these days, a majority of people are feeling a little bit sorry for Gen 5, considering that Hasbro just kind of went,
wow, it's as if maybe if you showed some fucking gratitude to what you have. But no, people are saying that it ruined Gen 4. But did it though? Because Gen 4 had Gen 4 had a ton of writing problems anyway.
Yeah, the problem with Gen 4, and this is something that I've told everybody, beforehand, the problem with Gen 4 was that they jumped too early with the whole lore dump. Because it's very clear they wanted to do the lore stuff, but then for some apparent reason, Hasbro forced the writers, no, don't do the lore, just focus on Slice of Life, which is you could have done the Slice of Life first and then build up the lore. That's how Gen 4 worked. Gen 4 worked.
The other thing is that a lot of these writing problems, it stems back to just Hasbro making bad mandates. In fact, I'm still gonna do it, but I'm just gonna say it right now. Do you know why Pinky was written the way she was in Philly Vanilli?
Wasn't it because of the events that was happening with Merryweather and her husband?
No. I'm talking about the way Pinkie Pie was written in Philly Vanilli.
That infamous. Yeah,
so the reason why Pinky was written that way is because Hasbro told Amy King Rogers to write it that way. Because they thought, Pinkie Pie doing goofy stuff. But that was not a very good, executive decision.
No, because it backfired hard, and it made a lot of people go after Amy, even though it wasn't really her fault.
Yeah. Like, I made my arguments towards Amy, but when I heard about the death threats, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, no, let's backpedal
Yeah, no,
hard.
that's too far. It's kind of similar to how it was with, like, and I hate to bring this up, but but like, we know he's done better from it. When Mr. Enter was so angry at, like, the later SpongeBob episodes because of Casey Alexander and Zeus Kava.
Yeah, all writers, and he did.
Yeah, and he was so apparently so angry with them that he essentially had fans go after them and, you know, harass them. I mean, obviously in recent years, Enter has felt a lot of regret for that, and he has apologized for it. But that was definitely, like, a big example of reviewers definitely have power sometimes, and we need to be careful.
Well, content creators in general do, and they need to be
content creators need to be a little bit careful when they're calling out calling out other content creators, because
that happens.
It's gonna backfire hard.
Now, I remember Josh had a certain beef with someone, and he was mad at his own audience for that.
Yeah, I remember he was that pissed. He pretty much made it clear that he's not asking to harass people. He's just pointing out flaws in certain arguments.
Oh, Ryza actually has a very interesting point about something. Hasbro didn't have to try to make Gen 4 work. A lot of it came naturally from writing in the characters, but when Hasbro wanted to go fully on cash cow, it wasn't seen as good as the majority of its fans. Yeah, this is once again just there's a little bit more detail that I was informed about, but I don't know how true it is. There was a YouTube channel named CXCD who made a video explaining the details of how Gen 5 came to be, and that somewhere along the way they had a previous CEO, and there is some information about those the said CEOs to kind of fit the narrative.
I remember this. A former mutual mentioned it to me. Apparently, this CEO really was excited for the lore, for like what the writers were going to do for Gen 5. However, if I remember correctly, he either had to leave the company or he passed away.
Yeah, he died after the release. Yeah, he passed away after the release of the new generation.
Yeah, which it did not help, because the next CEO that came in just didn't give a shit. They just kind of went, whatever. Actually, in hindsight, you know what this now reminds me of?
What?
When they removed the original CEO of Warner Brothers and then shoved in Zaslav.
Well, that was part of the merger, too.
Which I find it funny that the merger is no longer going to be a thing. They have to separate now. And
well, technically they're still going to be merged. They're just going to separate them into different,
I've actually...
I literally...
Go ahead.
Yeah. I was just going to say, and I don't know if a lot of people will remember this unless you're like an oldies, but I literally up and said,
damn it,
this is literally Nextel and Sprint, if anybody doesn't remember that.
Sprint, Singular, if anybody, y'all remember Singular.
Oh god, Singular, but with like, I remember about Singular, but like, if nobody fully, like, doesn't know what I'm talking about, essentially, Nextel was the biggest phone, like, one of the big phone companies, like, before T-Mobile and such, and essentially, they ended up merging with Sprint.
And then T-Mobile bought out Sprint.
Yeah, but here's the thing. When Nextel and Sprint merged, that caused complete permanent issues to their phone lines.
Oof.
All their phone lines struggled to have service. The merger was considered by many to be the biggest disaster in mobile phones, period.
No,
and it essentially destroyed.
Because I had Singular, and I had almost perfect service in certain areas. And as soon as they got bought out by AT&T, there was just like, we couldn't get dick in certain places.
Oof.
And one thing to note, like, after that happened, Nextel was forced to go bankrupt, or just liquidate everything and become a non-existing company. And then, of course, Sprint afterward ended up being bought by T-Mobile.
Yep.
And then T-Mobile bought Metro PCS.
Whoa! Shit. I almost zoned off and almost head over a cliff. Oh, wait, I'm going back to the beginning of the stage.
That's quite the thing Zone Off can do.
Yeah.
It on my head. That's literally me in a nutshell as well.
Something else that also irritates me about and yeah, I'm kind of putting my I'm putting some things out there, is when people is those who didn't like G5 are explaining that Bluey is what G5 wish it was. It's like, that's not a fair comparison.
No.
Oh
No. For one thing, yeah.
Bluey was supposed to be more slice of life with a narrative that undergoes, whereas G5 was supposed to be more fantasy based and much more heavily on full storytelling.
Yeah, not to mention, and the thing that, that made Bluey very unique is that, if, like with Gen 4, a lot of it was because of the characters. Everybody really grew to like Bluey for her innocence, Bingo for her curiosity, and, of course, Bandit and Chili for how relatable they are as parents.
Also, Bluey is also something Friendship is Magic wish it was. Because like I said, Friendship is Magic had a ton of its own writing problems because of the business mandates of Hasbro.
Yeah.
Whereas
Yeah,
Bluey
definitely.
had much more freedom of telling a story.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I still like Gen 4, but I'm not going to pretend it didn't have flaws. Like, immense fucking flaws in terms of writing and storytelling.
Not to mention, making some stupid petition to rewrite a certain season, if you catch my fucking drift.
Oh, we don't talk about that mother
on Twitter.
That dude literally likes some of the posts of my shitpost 4chan account, and it's just so fucking bizarre to see that. I'm like, bro, I do not like you. Why the fuck are you here?
6 years.
Yeah, get the fuck over it, my dude. Get over it.
Oh, if you think that's bad, you should see the guy I know who is still obsessed over the way the show changed after Lauren Faust left.
Oh shit.
God, and that's when I really liked it.
You want it has been nearly a decade and a half after Lauren Faust left, and this dude still has on his account, and I quote, # restore the Faustverse. I'm just like, dude, are you still clinging onto Lauren on this whole Lauren Faust thing? Look, I like Lauren Faust, but you can't tell me that she made fantastic writing ideas. Maybe
She's gonna come up with the ideas, the story, and the world, and the characters and stuff like that. But she wasn't so great with the individual episodes. Sometimes.
I mean, do we even need to remember do we even need to remember the infamous Foster's episode of Bendy?
Well, even she forgot that one.
Yeah, she even had to apologize for that one because of how awful it was. It's like, again, I get it. She created Gen 4, but you can't pretty much put her as being the pinnacle of perfection. Again, it's like saying that Butch Hartman was the pinnacle of perfection because he created Fairly Odd Parents, even though half of his ideas were god awful.
Yep.
And his art style is pretty goddamn awful.
Well, it's gotten worse over the years, honestly.
I mean, he started to trace these days, so that should tell you everything.